A semi-serious point about that. One thing that I find with this sharing of the diary thing, and as I said in the thumbnail, it seems to be very much setups and traps. Now, I know you're all canny enough to see that. I'm sure the palace is very much canny enough to see all that coming. I mean, let's face it, no one's quite as dumb as Harry, but it is obviously Meghan Markle's MO. Now, I'm not just saying that to pick on Meghan Markle for no reason. It follows the same pattern. When you look at the fact that when she wrote that letter to her father, which she was clearly planning ahead for it to become fodder in People magazine, she was clearly planning ahead that it was a way to permanently dispatch her father, to dump him for good, but still preserve her own image and reputation by the way she did it, by the way she couched it. And she was always planning, obviously, to just share snippets of that letter that made her, seem wonderful. And then, of course, Thomas Markle Sr. decided to share the real meaning of the letter, which was basically dumping him. Also, when she was, very depressed and thinking about unaliving herself, I have to say it that way because we're on YouTube, I can't use the S word. She went off to HR, again creating a paper trail. And Lady C very much spells this out in her book, and Tom Bower points to it, but not as much as Lady C does. So this paper trail, this whole thing of covering herself at a later date. And so very definitely her MO. Also, the changing of Archie's birth certificate was also sort of part of that. It was made to look like there was something nefarious afoot, that somehow the palace was in on something, that they knew something. So, pre-preparation, this Machiavellian level of ability to plant little landmines ahead. And this is obviously intended to be the same thing with the so-called sharing of Harry's diary, because they're trying to box the royal family into a corner. It won't work.
Oh, Shauna Kay, sweetheart, you really came to that vintage talk show with all the conviction of a royal historian, armed with all the facts of a Facebook comment section from 2019. Bless your heart. Today we're unpacking her spicy, misinformed and tragically outdated takes on Prince Harry weaponizing his diary to trap the royal family, and Meghan supposedly leaking her deeply personal letter to her estranged father. Spoiler alert, nothing she said holds water. But hey, let's make a splash anyway. According to Miss Shauna, Harry's memoir Spare, yes, the same memoir that outsold the Bible in week 1, wasn't just storytelling, it was a diabolical trap laid out to box the royal family into submission. What now? So let's get this straight. A grown man, raised in an institution known for never airing its dirty laundry, finally gets to tell his story, and suddenly he's playing 4D chess to trap King Charles and the Windsors. No, honey, that's not a trap. That's healing. That's the kind of Dear Diary that says, hey, I was suffering, I tried to get help, and the palace told me to shut up and smile. Let's not forget, Harry literally said he wanted accountability, not revenge. But when you've spent your career digesting Daily Mail headlines like their scripture, I guess nuance isn't your strong suit. There are claims that Prince Harry's diary and Meghan's letter were calculated weapons, not genuine expressions. These narratives paint them as manipulative, using personal communication for public warfare. But is this the only way to interpret their actions, or is there a more compassionate human story beneath? Let's examine these accusations with clarity and empathy. And the real kicker. The same people who scream freedom of speech suddenly have a problem when Harry uses his. Make it make sense. Keeping a diary is a deeply personal act, not a sinister one. It's a quiet ritual, a moment of solitude where thoughts and feelings can be poured onto the page without fear of judgment. For many, it's a safe space to untangle the complexities of life, to make sense of emotions that might otherwise remain unspoken. For Harry, it was a way to process trauma, loss, and the pressures of royal life. The weight of expectation, the constant scrutiny, and the pain of personal loss all found their way into his private journals. These pages became a confidant, a silent witness to his struggles and hopes. Diaries offer raw emotion and self-reflection, not blueprints for attack. They capture the truth of a moment, the vulnerability of being human, and the courage it takes to face one's own story. When writing his memoir, turning to these records was natural, seeking honesty, not revenge. The diaries offered clarity, helping him recall not just events, but the feelings that shaped them. They were a guide to authenticity, not a weapon. His book was about reclaiming his narrative after years of being misrepresented. For so long, others had spoken for him, twisting his story to fit their own agendas. Now he could finally share his truth, unfiltered and unedited. It was an act of healing, not a calculated strike. Writing allowed him to process pain, to find closure, and to move forward with a sense of peace. To frame it as a trap ignores the human need to be understood. Everyone deserves the chance to tell their own story, to be seen for who they truly are, beyond the headlines and speculation. Writing was his way to say, "This is my life in my own words." It was a declaration of identity, a reclaiming of agency in a world that often tried to define him. It was a step toward personal freedom. Each word written was a step away from the shadows of the past and toward a future shaped by his own choices. Let's see it for what it is, a journey toward wholeness, a testament to the power of self-expression and the courage it takes to heal. Meghan's letter to her father was written from a place of deep pain and vulnerability, not as a calculated public relations move. Every word on that page was a reflection of her private anguish, a daughter reaching out in the hope of mending a fractured relationship, not seeking headlines or attention. Yet, despite her intentions, her family's struggles were thrust into the spotlight, exposed to the world against her will. The relentless glare of the media made her personal heartbreak a public spectacle, stripping away her right to handle family matters in private. The letter was a desperate, heartfelt attempt to reach her father directly, away from the noise and chaos of the media circus. It was a private message meant to bridge a painful divide, not to fuel tabloid stories or public debate. In her words, she pleaded for privacy and peace, longing for a moment of calm and understanding, not for publicity or public sympathy. Her request was simple: to be allowed the dignity of resolving family issues away from the cameras. If Meghan had truly wanted the letter to be leaked, why would she have fought such a long and difficult legal battle to protect its contents? Her actions speak volumes about her true intentions. She was determined to defend her privacy, not exploit her pain for public gain. Time and again, Meghan's actions have shown a consistent desire to shield her personal life from the relentless scrutiny of the press, to protect her family and herself from exploitation, not to seek the spotlight. At its core, this was a heartfelt plea from a daughter in distress, reaching out in hope and pain, longing for understanding and reconciliation. Let's take a moment to recognize the humanity behind her words, and remember that beyond the headlines, there is a real person experiencing real emotions. There's a clear double standard in how the Sussexes are treated. Other royals have shared personal stories and been praised for it. When Harry and Meghan do the same, they're condemned. The criticism isn't about speaking out, it's about who is speaking and what they're saying. Their every action is scrutinized, their mistakes magnified, they're expected to conform to an outdated mold, denied complexity. When they set boundaries or speak their truth, hostility follows. Recognizing this double standard is key to understanding their situation. Telling one's story is about healing, not revenge. True healing means confronting pain and integrating it, not seeking retribution. For Harry, sharing his struggles is an act of liberation and service to others who feel unseen. Meghan's fight for privacy is about dignity, not attacking tradition. Their actions are about self-preservation and holding on to identity. The revenge narrative misses the deeper motivations of healing and connection. When we see their journey through this lens, it's about courage, not calculation. It's a universal quest for peace and authenticity. Sometimes we must draw a line to protect our peace. Setting boundaries isn't aggression, it's self-preservation. Harry and Meghan's public choices are examples of defining their own lives. They left behind the familiar for a chance at well-being and dignity. So Shauna Kay, with all due respect, your theory's got more holes than Buckingham Palace has crown jewels. Harry told his story. Meghan wrote her letter. And the only trap that's been set is the one you'll keep falling into. Believing the Sussexes are villains for doing what the rest of us do every day, setting boundaries and choosing peace.